I stepped into our empty house after Amanda moved out. Silence greeted me instead of her warm hello. At first I felt strangely free after 7 years of marriage. Then came Christmas Eve. Alone with a glass of whiskey, I found our wedding photo tucked in a drawer. Her smile still made my heart skip a beat. That was when I knew I had made a terrible mistake. Before I share my story of marriage and divorce, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you have ever made decisions you later regretted. I met Amanda on a crisp autumn evening in 2014. My college buddy Jackson threw one of his famous dinner parties, the kind where you never knew who might show up. I arrived fashionably late, scanning the room for familiar faces when I spotted her across the crowded living room. Amanda stood by the bookshelf, her dark hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders as she examined Jackson's collection. Something pulled me toward her. Maybe it was her focused expression or the confident way she held herself. I casually strolled over, pretending to look for a book myself. "Anything good?" I asked, immediately regretting such a generic opener. She turned, surprising me with the warmest smile. "Depends on what you consider good literature. His taste is quite eclectic." We talked about books, then movies, then somehow landed on childhood stories. Amanda had this infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. When I accidentally knocked over my glass of water instead of being embarrassed, she laughed and helped me clean up, telling me about her own clumsy moments. By midnight, I knew I was smitten. I asked for her number before leaving, and she gave it without hesitation. Our dating phase was electric. We explored art museums where Amanda would analyze paintings with such passion. We went ice skating at Rockefeller Center during winter, where I spent more time falling than actually skating, much to her amusement. We cooked elaborate meals together in my tiny apartment kitchen, making more mess than edible food. I introduced her to my parents, just 3 months in. My mother instantly adored her, and even my critical father was impressed by her intelligence and charm. Her family welcomed me just as warmly when we visited them in Connecticut. Her father grilled me about my intentions, while her mother insisted on showing me embarrassing childhood photos of Amanda. Our first weekend trip together was to a small bed and breakfast in rural Vermont. We spent days hiking through autumn foliage and evenings curled up by the fireplace. On the last night, under a blanket of stars, Amanda whispered that she was falling in love with me. I realized I had already fallen. I proposed 6 months after we met. Nothing extravagant or public, just an intimate dinner at the Italian restaurant where we had our first official date. The ring was simple but elegant, just like her. When I dropped to one knee, her eyes filled with tears before I even finished asking. She said yes, before I could even finish my rehearsed speech. Our wedding was small but perfect. 50 of our closest friends and family gathered at a rustic vineyard that spring. Amanda looked breathtaking in her simple white dress. I remember how my voice shook during our vows, not from nervousness, but from the overwhelming emotion. We danced until dawn, then escaped to Hawaii for 2 weeks of pure bliss. The early years of marriage were everything I had hoped for. We bought our first home together, a charming 2-bedroom colonial, with a yard just big enough for barbecues and maybe someday children. We established sweet daily routines, morning coffee together before work texts throughout the day, cooking dinner together while sharing stories about our day. I supported Amanda when she decided to open her own yoga studio, working late to help her paint walls and set up equipment. She celebrated with me when I got promoted at my software company, throwing a surprise party with all our friends. We were a team facing life together. Looking back, I can pinpoint when things started to change around our 4th year. My company launched a new product line, and suddenly my workload doubled. Late nights at the office became routine. I told myself it was temporary, just until things stabilized. Amanda was understanding at first, bringing me dinner at the office, massaging my shoulders when I finally made it home. But weeks turned into months. I missed dinners, weekends, and eventually her studio opening anniversary. She stopped bringing dinner. The shoulder massages ended. Small arguments about finances and time spent together became more frequent. I failed to see the warning signs. When Amanda expressed feeling neglected, I dismissed her concerns as neediness. I thought she should understand the pressure I was under at work. After all, I was doing this for us, for our future. What I failed to realize was that I was sacrificing our present. Amanda retreated into her own world. Our conversations became superficial. Our intimate life dwindled from passionate to occasional to practically non-existent. We lived like polite roommates, sharing space, but not our lives. The final argument came on my 33rd birthday. I had expected some kind of celebration, but Amanda had been swamped with a teacher training program at her studio. She came home late, exhausted, with no gift or card. Something in me snapped after weeks of feeling unappreciated. "You forgot my birthday," I accused, not even letting her explain. "Clayton, I did not forget. I have been working non-stop. You of all people should understand that. I understand that I am not a priority to you anymore," I fired back. The argument escalated quickly. Years of unspoken resentment surfaced. I said things I knew would hurt her. She threw back my own failures with equal force. Then I said it. "Maybe we should just end this. We are both miserable." The room went silent. Amanda looked at me with such pain in her eyes that I almost took it back. But pride kept my mouth shut. She quietly walked to our bedroom, closed the door, and I slept on the couch. The next morning she agreed to divorce. Just like that, 7 years together ended with a quiet conversation over coffee. The divorce process was surprisingly civil. We agreed to an uncontested split. No children made it simpler. I kept the house. She took an equivalent amount in savings. Our lawyers commented on how reasonable we both were being, as if that were some kind of victory. I remember the day we signed the final papers. Amanda wore the blue dress I had always loved. Her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Her hand trembled slightly as she signed her name. As we left the attorney's office, I saw tears streaming down her face. I maintained my composure until I reached my car, then broke down completely. To celebrate my newfound freedom, I threw what my friends called a liberation party. We drank expensive bourbon, and they congratulated me on my fresh start. I laughed and agreed, ignoring the hollow feeling in my chest. I rearranged furniture, painted walls, different colors, and bought new bedding to erase any trace of Amanda. I reveled in eating whatever I wanted, watching sports all weekend, and not having to check in with anyone. For about 2 weeks it felt like freedom. Reality hit harder than expected. Those solo dinners got old fast. The silence in the house became deafening. I found myself talking out loud just to hear a human voice. I tried dating apps, meeting women for coffee or drinks. The conversations felt forced, the connections superficial. I compared every woman to Amanda without meaning. To this one laughed too loudly. That one had political views. I could not stand another texted too frequently. None of them were her. Small things triggered memories constantly. I would catch myself buying Amanda's favorite cereal at the grocery store. I avoided our favorite restaurant because sitting there alone was unbearable. Once I smelled her perfume on a woman passing by and followed her for half a block before realizing what I was doing. The worst was catching myself reaching for my phone to text her whenever something funny or interesting happened. By the time I remembered we were no longer together, the joy of the moment had evaporated. Jackson invited me to a summer barbecue, 3 months after the divorce. I almost declined, knowing most of our mutual friends would be there with their partners. Loneliness won out, and I went anyway. The pitying looks were worse than I imagined. "How are you holding up?" everyone asked with that sympathetic head tilt. I watched other couples bicker over small things, then make up minutes later. Jackson and his wife Lisa had a heated debate about grilling techniques that ended with them laughing and kissing. I wondered why Amanda and I could not navigate our disagreements that way. Later that evening, I overheard Lisa telling someone how she and Jackson had gone to counseling last year when things got rough. "Best decision we ever made," she said. We almost gave up, but now we are stronger than ever. I drove home wondering why Amanda and I had not even considered counseling. We had just assumed our problems were insurmountable. Had we given up too easily? One night, unable to sleep, I made the mistake of checking Amanda's Instagram. She appeared to be thriving, teaching yoga retreats, going out with friends, even traveling to Costa Rica. Her smile looked genuine in every photo. While I sat alone in our house still wearing my wedding ring when no one was looking, I compared our lives before and after divorce. Before shared dreams, inside jokes, someone who knew exactly how I took my coffee. After complete independence but profound loneliness. The trade seemed increasingly poor. My phone rang one Sunday afternoon with a number I had not seen in months. Amanda's mother. I almost did not answer, but curiosity won. Clayton, dear, how are you? Her warm voice brought unexpected tears to my eyes. We talked about surface-level things before she got to her point. Amanda would kill me if she knew I was calling. But I thought you should know, she is not as happy as she pretends to be on social media. She explained that Amanda had been staying with them on weekends, often crying herself to sleep. Sometimes, pride makes us lose the most precious things in life, she said before hanging up. That conversation haunted me for days. I had assumed Amanda had moved on completely, while I was stuck in the past. The possibility that she might be suffering too brought both comfort and deeper regret. A major work crisis hit soon after. The project I had sacrificed my marriage for fell apart when our biggest client pulled out. My boss implied the failure was largely my responsibility. My team looked to me for solutions I did not have. I came home to an empty house. No Amanda to vent, to no one, to assure me things would be okay. I sat on our patio with a bottle of scotch, remembering all the times Amanda had supported me through professional setbacks. She would listen patiently, then offer practical advice, or simply a comforting presence. On what would have been our 8th anniversary, I accidentally discovered our wedding box while looking for tax documents. Inside were our vows, dried flowers from her bouquet, and wedding photos. I read my promises to her, to cherish, respect, and prioritize our relationship above all else. I watched our wedding video for the first time since the divorce. Young, happy Clayton looked directly into Amanda's eyes as he promised forever. What had happened to that man? When had I stopped seeing her? Really seeing her? I realized then that our love had never actually died. It had been buried under layers of neglect, poor communication, and misplaced priorities. The small issues we fought about seemed so trivial compared to the pain of losing each other. My childhood friend Will visited from Chicago that weekend. We had not spoken much since the divorce, as he had been one of the few to suggest I was making a mistake. Over beers in my backyard, he shared his own marital struggles. Lisa and I almost split up 2 years ago, he admitted. I had an emotional affair with a coworker. Lisa found our texts. What happened, I asked, surprised by this revelation. We went through hell. Lots of counseling. Lots of painful conversations. But we worked through it, because what we had was worth fighting for. He looked at me pointedly. Divorce does not solve problems, Clayton. It just exchanges one set of problems for another. His words hit me like a physical blow. Had I really tried everything to save my marriage? Or had I taken the easier path of walking away? I began researching relationship psychology, communication techniques, and emotional intelligence. I found a therapist specializing in divorce recovery. In our sessions, I slowly recognized my own role in our marriage's demise. I had prioritized my career above our relationship, believing financial success would automatically lead to happiness. I had stopped truly listening to Amanda, hearing her words but missing her meaning. When she said she was lonely, I offered solutions instead of presence. When she expressed hurt, I became defensive instead of empathetic. The more I learned, the more I saw our marriage from Amanda's perspective. She had not been needy. She had been neglected. She had not been overly sensitive. I had been emotionally unavailable. The weight of my failures crushed me. I tortured myself, imagining alternate realities where I came home early more often, where I put my phone away during dinner, where I went to her yoga classes as she had asked. Small changes that might have saved us. Each night I fell asleep, wondering if Amanda was thinking of me too, or if she had already healed and moved on. The uncertainty was its own special kind of torment. Then came the news that shattered my fragile recovery. During a quick catch-up call, Jackson casually mentioned that Amanda had been seen around town with someone named Brian. They had attended a concert together last weekend. My stomach dropped to the floor. The thought of Amanda with another man sent waves of jealousy and despair crashing over me. I spent that night pacing my house imagining them together, laughing at jokes that used to be ours. His hands where mine used to be. By morning I was physically ill from lack of sleep and emotional turmoil. It was the lowest point since signing our divorce papers. I had truly lost her, and the finality of it overwhelmed me. I threw myself into work with renewed desperation, staying at the office until midnight, taking on projects nobody else wanted. Colleagues commented on my haggard appearance, but I brushed off their concerns. Bourbon became my nightly companion, helping me fall into fitful sleep. I withdrew from friends, tired of their sympathetic glances and awkward attempts to set me up with someone new. Family calls went unanswered. I was spiraling, but could not find the will to stop the descent. The wake-up call came in the form of literal unconsciousness. After 3 days of minimal food and maximum stress, I collapsed during a presentation. I woke up in the hospital with a concerned nurse asking about emergency contacts. The only name that came to mind was Amanda, but I could not bring myself to say it. Just me. I said the 2 words, capturing my entire sad reality. Being discharged from the hospital alone, calling my own Uber, and returning to an empty house forced me to confront how isolated I had become. That night, I searched online for therapists and made an appointment for the next day. Dr. Melissa Turner did not sugarcoat things in our first session. "You seem to be grieving not just the loss of your wife, but the loss of the future you had planned together," she observed after listening to my story. "When in your marriage did you stop prioritizing Amanda?" she asked directly. I started to defend myself, but stopped short. Probably about 2 years in, when the promotions started coming. "And did you ever really try to change that pattern?" when she expressed unhappiness. "I thought I did," I said slowly. "But looking back, I just made temporary adjustments that never lasted." "Did you ask what she needed? Or did you assume you knew?" Each question peeled back another layer of self-deception. I had believed I was a good husband, who had simply grown apart from his wife. The truth was more painful. I had been emotionally absent, taking Amanda for granted, while expecting her to adapt to my priorities. In our third session, something broke open in me. We were discussing what I missed most about Amanda. Everything I said, my voice cracking. Her laugh. The way she always knew what I was thinking. How she would leave little notes in my lunch. The way she believed in me, even when I did not believe in myself. Tears came then, uncontrollable and cathartic. I still love her. I never stopped loving her. "Then why did you let her go so easily?" "Doctor," Turner asked quietly. I had no answer. And of 40. I had no answer. I had no answer. I had no answer. I had no answer. Just the devastating realization that I had walked away from the most important relationship in my life without truly fighting for it. "Would you tell her that?" "If you could," she asked. The question lingered with me for days. Would Amanda even want to hear from me? Or would I just be reopening wounds that had finally started to heal? I reached out to Sarah, Amanda's younger sister, with whom I had always had a good relationship. She was surprised to hear from me, but agreed to coffee. "How is she?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Sarah studied me carefully. "She is okay. Getting better." "Why?" "I heard she was seeing someone. A guy named Brian." Sarah actually laughed. "Brian is her business partner. They are opening a second yoga studio location together." He is happily married to his husband, Mark. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by shame at my assumption. So she is not seeing anyone. Not that she has told me, Sarah said. She has been focused on her business and herself. She hesitated. She still has your wedding photo on her nightstand, though she would kill me for telling you that. That tiny detail gave me the courage I needed. I spent days drafting and deleting text messages to Amanda. Everything sounded either too casual or too intense. Finally, I sent a simple truth. I know it has been 6 months, and I have no right to ask, but I would love the chance to talk. I owe you an apology, and there are things I need to say. Coffee at our old place. No pressure. The 24 hours that followed were excruciating. I checked my phone, constantly jumping at every notification. When her reply finally came, my hands shook so badly I could barely read it. 1 coffee. Sunday at 3. No promises. I arrived 30 minutes early, securing our favorite corner table. When Amanda walked in, my heart nearly stopped. She looked beautiful in jeans and a simple blue sweater, her hair shorter than before, but still framing her face perfectly. She approached cautiously, as if I were a stranger, rather than the man she had once pledged her life to. "Thank you for coming," I said, standing awkwardly as she sat down. "Why did you want to see me?" Clayton direct, as always. I took a deep breath and let the carefully rehearsed speech go. Instead, I spoke from my heart. "I made the biggest mistake of my life letting you go. I was selfish, blind, and took you for granted. I should have listened when you told me you were unhappy. I should have put us first, instead of my job. I should have fought for our marriage instead of walking away." Her expression remained neutral, but I noticed her hands tightening around her coffee cup. "I am not asking for another chance. I just needed you to know that I understand now what I did wrong, and I am so sorry for the pain I caused you." A long silence followed. When Amanda finally spoke, her voice was quiet, but steady. "I cried myself to sleep for months, Clayton. I waited for you to realize what was happening to us to fight for us. But you always chose work, or your friends, or anything else over me. I know I whispered. The hardest part was seeing how easily you seemed to move on. Your social media looked like you were having the time of your life without me." I almost laughed at the irony. I was falling apart inside. I just did not want anyone to know. "Me too," she admitted, a glimmer of our old connection flickering between us. "What scares me," she continued after a pause, "is that nothing has really changed. How would I know you would not go back to the same patterns?" It was the opening I had not dared hope for. She was at least considering the possibility of reconciliation. "I have changed," I said earnestly. "I am in therapy. I have restructured my work schedule. I have learned so much about what went wrong and how I contributed to it. But I understand your skepticism. I would need to earn your trust again." Amanda nodded slowly. "I need time to think about this. It is not a simple decision." As we parted outside the cafe, I wanted desperately to hug her, to beg her not to leave again. Instead, I respected her boundaries and watched her walk away, not knowing if she would ever come back into my life. That night was one of complete emotional exhaustion. I had laid my heart bare, and now had nothing to do but wait. The possibility that it might be too late, that too much damage had been done, was almost too painful to bear. The next morning, I made a decision. Regardless of Amanda's choice, I needed to become a better man. For her, for myself, and for any future relationship. I doubled down on therapy, attending weekly sessions without fail. I enrolled in communication workshops and joined a men's group focused on emotional intelligence. I restructured my work schedule to maintain better balance, even turning down a promotion that would have required more travel. I sent Amanda weekly email updates about my journey, not asking for responses, just sharing my growth and insights. I wanted her to know this was not a temporary change to win her back, but a fundamental shift in how I approached life and relationships. At first, there was no response. I continued anyway, studying her love languages that I had ignored during our marriage. She valued quality time and words of affirmation. Yet I had given her neither. Thinking gifts and occasional acts of service were enough. After 4 weeks of silence, a brief message appeared in my inbox. "Are you really changing? Or is this for show?" It was direct, skeptical, but it was communication. I responded with honesty about my therapy breakthroughs and my realization that I had never truly understood her needs. I ended by asking if she might consider meeting again. To my surprise, she suggested dinner the following weekend. Unlike our tense coffee shop encounter, this meeting felt almost like a first date. Nervous, hopeful, with both of us carefully choosing our words. "I have been in therapy too," Amanda confessed over dessert, "learning to advocate for my needs instead of silently hoping you would notice." We talked until the restaurant closed, then continued in the parking lot for another hour. For the first time since before our divorce, we really listened to each other. I heard her describe the loneliness of being married to someone physically present but emotionally absent. She heard my remorse and commitment to change. The breakthrough came 3 weeks later. We agreed to meet at the park where we used to walk every Sunday morning before life got too busy. Sitting on our favorite bench, overlooking the lake, Amanda took my hand, unexpectedly. "I never stopped loving you," she said softly. "But love was never our problem. Fear, pride, poor communication, misaligned priorities. Those were our problems." "I know that now," I replied, hardly daring to breathe. "If we try again, it has to be different," she continued. "I need to know you see me, hear me, and choose me every day, not just when it is convenient." "I will. I do," I promised. We agreed to take things slowly. Weekly dates like starting our relationship from scratch. Clear boundaries that I respected meticulously. Joint counseling sessions to address old patterns before they could resurface. Not everyone supported our reconciliation. Her parents were skeptical, remembering how broken their daughter had been. My friends questioned whether people could really change. Amanda's yoga students and business partner worried I would hurt her again. Even we had moments of doubt. Old habits occasionally surfaced during disagreements. I caught myself checking work emails during dinner once and immediately put my phone away, but not before seeing the flash of hurt in Amanda's eyes. She sometimes withdrew rather than expressing disappointment, falling back into patterns from before. The real test came 1 year after our divorce was finalized. I planned a special dinner at home. Our home, which still felt partly hers despite the changes I had made. Over her favorite meal, we reflected on the painful, transformative year behind us. Moving back in together seems like the next logical step, I suggested carefully. "But I understand if you are not ready." Amanda considered this thoughtfully. "Not here," she said finally. "This house holds too many memories of our failures. We need a fresh start, something we build together." We found a new place the following month, a blank canvas representing our second chance. Together we chose paint colors, furniture, and created a space that was truly ours, not mine or hers. The healing continued as we attended couples retreats, focused on building lasting marriages. I learned to demonstrate love in ways meaningful to Amanda. She learned to communicate needs directly, rather than expecting me to intuit them. We established new traditions, while honoring the good parts of our shared history. 2 years after reconciling, we held a small ceremony in our backyard, with just our closest friends and family. Not a legal remarriage yet, but a recommitment ceremony, symbolizing our new beginning. We wrote new vows, based on the hard lessons we had learned. "I promised to choose you every day," I vowed, "to listen not just with my ears, but with my heart." to never again take for granted the gift of your love. Amanda's eyes shimmered with tears as she promised, "I will always speak my truth to you. I will not expect perfection, but will celebrate your efforts. I will remember that love is both a feeling and a choice, and I choose you." Today, our relationship is stronger because of what we endured. The pain of separation taught us what truly matters. The work of reconciliation showed us what we are capable of when love is the foundation. I learned that marriage is not a destination, but a daily practice. That communication must be consistent and honest. That sometimes you have to lose something precious to truly understand its value. And that even the greatest mistakes can be overcome with humility, persistence, and love. As I look at Amanda sleeping beside me now, I feel gratitude beyond words for this second chance. Not everyone gets the opportunity to correct their greatest mistake. Not everyone recognizes what they have lost until it is truly gone forever. If you are considering divorce, I urge you to first try everything possible to save your marriage. Seek counseling, have the difficult conversations, examine your own contributions to the problems. There are certainly situations where divorce is necessary, but make sure you are not walking away simply because staying requires too much work. The grass is not greener on the other side. It is greener where you water it. If you have been through divorce and recognize yourself in my story, I would love to hear your experiences in the comments. Have you ever regretted a divorce? Were you able to reconcile? Or did you find healing in a different way? Please like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share it with someone who might need to hear that second chances are possible. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that love is always worth fighting for.